On the 4th of June 2004, dozens of families gathered in the library attached to the town hall in Granby, Colorado. They were there for a story hour event, an afternoon session during which a staff member would entertain young children with stories, songs, and other activities. Shortly after the event began, however, police descended on the building and ordered everyone inside to leave, urgently. Staff and families fled the library and then watched in horror as the building was destroyed by something that none of them could ever have imagined. Marvin Heeymeyer was born in 1951 in South Dakota and moved to Colorado in 1974 when he joined the Air Force. By the late 1980s, his career in the armed forces had come to an end, but he stayed in Colorado and started an auto repair shop, specializing in repairing mufflers, the noise-reducing component of vehicle exhausts. His business was successful. One store became a chain, and he was soon earning a decent living for himself. In 1992, he settled in Granby, Colorado, a small and picturesque town that he'd previously vacationed in. There, he made friends and was generally well-liked. Granby's location close to the Rocky Mountain National Park allowed him to pursue his favorite hobby of riding snowmobiles, something he did on a regular basis with a close network of friends. Those who knew him noted that he was loyal, old-fashioned, and dependable, as well as being extremely intelligent. Many friends, acquaintances, and customers alike remarked on what a skilled welder he was, and how much pride he took in his work. Not long after settling in the town, however, Marvin came into conflict with some other residents. This began when he purchased a plot of land at a public auction and opened a muffler repair shop on it. The plot wasn't connected to the local sewage network, instead relying on a makeshift septic tank constructed from a buried cement tanker. The town insisted that Marvin connect his property to the nearest sewage main, something that would cost him twice what he'd paid for the land. Marvin refused. In 1997, a local family, the Docheffs, purchased land adjacent to Marvin's property in order to construct a concrete plant. Marvin strongly objected and rallied nearby residents to object to the concrete plant also. Over a series of weeks, a number of changes were made to the plans to reduce the noise, pollution, and traffic that would result from the plant, and ultimately, approval for the plant was granted. Furious, Marvin launched a legal battle to try and block construction of the plant. While he was worried about noise and dust, one of his main complaints was that he believed the concrete plant would, once complete, block access to his shop. For years, the fight raged on. While Marvin had initially had a lot of support in his objections to the concrete plant, as the plans were modified, other campaigners dropped their objections until only Marvin remained. He was now fighting a losing battle, and to make matters worse for him, the town started enforcing their demand that he connect to the sewage network, levying fines against him for every day that he remained unconnected. Marvin now believed that he was being treated unfairly by the town, while the Docheffs were getting preferential treatment as they were a long-established local family. While Marvin was fined every day for not having a sewage connection he didn't want or need, the Docheffs were allowed to begin work on the concrete plant despite the objections he'd lodged against it. This sense of unfairness overwhelmed Marvin, and he started to feel negatively about the town. He believed that his neighbors were laughing at him, and that long-established families in the town were conspiring to drive him, a newcomer, out. As his mental state worsened, Marvin started to believe that he was compelled to take revenge on the town, and that doing so was nothing less than a mission from God. Finally, after several years, he took action. In April 2002, he took a trip to California, during which he attended an auction and purchased a Komatsu D355A Bulldozer. For several months it sat outside his muffler shop in Granby. Passers-by believed that he intended to sell it for a profit or use it to carry out landscaping work. However, by October of that same year, Marvin had resolved to put the digger to an entirely different use. He sold the muffler shop and the land on which it stood, with the condition that he could lease back part of it from the new owners until he'd finished some work. He sectioned off an area of the plot, constructed rudimentary living quarters there, and took up residence, spending the majority of each day working on the bulldozer. He made numerous modifications, mainly adding thick armor made of steel and concrete to the outside. This armor plating obstructed the view from the driver's cabin, so he also added external cameras protected by bulletproof plastic, and several gun ports around the vehicle. The end result was something that more closely resembled a weapon of war than a bulldozer. During this time, several people visited the workshop and noted that Marvin was carrying out some unusual work on the bulldozer. He told them he was modifying its air cooling system, and they investigated no further. At the same time, to other acquaintances, Marvin talked openly about using the vehicle to cause mass destruction, but these announcements were taken as jokes by his friends. But Marvin wasn't joking. On the 4th of June 2004, having labored over the bulldozer for more than a year, Marvin climbed inside, taking with him multiple handguns and a week's supply of food and water. He then drove it out through the wall of the muffler shop and began to systematically destroy the town around him. His first target was the Dochef's now completed concrete plant next door. He drove the bulldozer directly through it. Employees scattered, fleeing the terrifying machine, before regrouping and trying to throw debris into its treads. Marvin fired at them from the gun ports and they retreated, as did several state troopers when Marvin drove the bulldozer directly at them. Helpless to stop the armored vehicle, police used a reverse 911 mechanism to send a recorded message to every phone in the Granby area, advising residents to evacuate. Many of them did so, fleeing with the sound of crashing destruction and gunfire in the distance. Having wrecked the concrete plant, Marvin directed the lumbering bulldozer towards town. One police officer climbed on top of the vehicle, seeking a viable way to attack it, but was unable to find even the slightest chink in its armor. He soon clambered down and joined dozens of other police officers who could only follow along and watch in dismay as Marvin's rampage continued. Marvin partially destroyed the town hall and library, a local bank, and part of the offices of the local newspaper. Heavy machinery was brought in to try and block the tank, but Marvin's modified bulldozer was able to easily push any other vehicle aside. It was only when he attacked a local store and one tread of the bulldozer dropped into a basement, effectively stranding the makeshift tank, that his reign of destruction came to an end. Police surrounded the vehicle, fearing a confrontation, but before they could attempt to breach it, Martin ended his own life. The path of destruction he'd cut through the town was huge but targeted. The concrete plant had long been an object of Marvin's ire, and his other targets were the workplaces of town officials or other people who he believed had slighted him. Indeed, when his house was searched, a handwritten list of 107 names was found, all of them thought to be people with whom Marvin had, at some point, disagreed. Marvin's destructive protest garnered worldwide media coverage. His modified vehicle, nicknamed the Killdozer, even though it had not caused any deaths, was the subject of much online admiration, as it was considered an extremely impressive project for one man to have built. Many people sympathized with Marvin, and the frustrations he had faced interacting with the administration of a small American town. At the same time, many residents of Granby noted that Marvin had been extremely unreasonable, and had ignored several opportunities to resolve his disputes. For example, the Dochefs had offered to buy his land at a very favorable price, but Marvin had continually upped the amount he would accept until the deal fell through. The Dochefs had also offered to allow Marvin access to their property to connect to the sewage network via their line, but he had simply refused to engage with them on this topic. At other times, he had been caught dumping raw sewage into drainage ditches and attempting to covertly plumb into a neighbour's sewer line without permission. Marvin had left behind several audio tapes on which he narrated the story behind his many grudges, but many residents of the town had no recollection of arguments that he reported having with them or insults that he believed they had levied at him. With regard to the concrete plant, multiple modifications had been made to the plans in order to address Marvin's concerns, but he had refused to accept any of these and had continued to insist that it would block access to his shop, even though it did not appear to anyone else who examined the plans that it would. Marvin had found the sewage issue an impossible one to solve, but when he finally sold his land, the new owners were able to arrange a connection to the sewage main within a day of taking ownership. Some suggested that Marvin could have done the same, had he been willing to make even the slightest compromise. Marvin's rampage made global news, with commentators expressing varying opinions on what he had done. To some, Marvin was a man who was pushed to breaking point and felt that he had no choice but to take extreme action. To others, he was a delusional and combative man whose stubborn personality had turned minor issues into intractable, years-long, bitter feuds. Some credited Marvin with having avoided causing any actual injury or death during his rampage, while others put this down to luck and a swift evacuation of the town. Indeed, several buildings were destroyed just moments after their occupants fled, including the town library, where dozens of children had been present. Whether viewed as a hero or a villain, Marvin's legacy was a long one. His rampage did approximately $7 million worth of damage to the town and left a permanent scar on the history of Granby, one that took many years to truly heal. In the aftermath of the incident, the Killdozer itself was slowly disassembled and distributed to dozens of different scrapyards around the country to prevent anyone from taking parts of the vehicle as souvenirs.